This is Territory Tales, the stories behind Oregon's Mount Hood Territory and the people behind some of our favorite attractions. I'm your host, Jared Lyman, joined by Molly Johnson. Molly, how's it going today?
Hi, everyone.
I am super excited because I think we've got somebody really good who is leading off our first podcast. Why don't you tell who we've got?
Okay, guys, this is Tim Hull. He is the owner of Toss Brewing in Oregon City. Please say hi, Tim.
Hey, guys.
I think this is perfect. You are the perfect person to help us kick off our first podcast because we are both former radio people. And this might as well be radio. It's radio light, as I like to call it. So I think what better way to kick that off than somebody who's got some broadcasting experience. But the question behind that goes, how does somebody who has that broadcast experience get into beer? Now, my story was because I needed the beer to cope with working in broadcasting. But you, it's a little different. It's a little bit more, there's some love and passion in it.
Absolutely, yeah. I had a wonderful, almost 30-year career in radio, and was very blessed with many wonderful experiences. One of those experiences was as a radio broadcaster in Oregon and in Washington for a while. You end up talking about the craft beer industry because it's so intertwined in our culture and our everyday lives. And so over the course of my career, I got to know a lot of wonderful people within the craft beer industry. At the same time, I was a home brewer. You know, every Sunday I was out making beer in the driveway, and neighbors were coming over for free beers and that sort of thing.
Well, at least they're doing that and not complaining.
Right.
And so as the broadcasting career kind of started to wind down, because as you know, there's a lot of consolidation, a lot of jobs going away, I knew that day would eventually come. So started to think about what was going to be life after radio. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why not somehow involve myself into the craft beer industry because of all these wonderful people that I've met. And I love the culture. I love the collaborative culture. Everybody wants to help each other succeed. It's 99% a-hole free is one way I heard it described. I could say
well, the
podcast,
1%
right?
is because we have a-hole sitting right in front of us.
No, don't say that.
Good one.
It's a good. We're starting with the pun. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one thing led to another, and we started putting together a business plan. Started looking around, and hey, I live in Clackamas County. I live in West Lynn, Oregon City. Didn't have a single brewery when we started kicking around this idea just 5 or so years ago, and started writing a business plan, started doing some market research, and really had the confidence that what Oregon City needed was more of a craft beer culture. So that's kind of how the whole concept was born. In March of 2015, we actually formed the company, and we're actually coming up on our third anniversary of being open to the public in March of this year. So it's been an incredible run. Sometimes it seems like it was just 5 minutes ago when I started this whole process. Sometimes it seems like it's been 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But here we are, and there's been no looking back, and it's just been fantastic.
Well, you mentioned that craft brewing scene and then how Oregon City didn't really have one, but how quickly that's changed.
Absolutely.
Oregon City is, it's booming.
I would challenge you to name me a destination on the outside of the Portland city limits, on the fringes of Portland, where so much is happening right now when it comes to the craft community. Not only beer, but cider, spirits, and I think Oregon City is right up there. Vancouver might give us a run for our money just because there's a lot happening there, but just take Portland away. We know Portland's reputation and that sort of thing. Oregon City has really become this, that has its own little craft identity with 5 different breweries who all do things a little bit differently. We all get along. We all want to promote each other. We all want to bring people out from Portland to see, hey, here's what's going on, and all of that has happened in just 3 or 4 years.
Well, so that's why we're so thankful that you pioneered that, Tim. Yes.
Well, we weren't the first, but we were right up there because we were all 5 of us were all kind of born roughly about the same time.
Well, then you mentioned how collaborative the industry is and how you guys all worked together, and that was something that was really fun to watch from the outside, because there are not that many industries where you're going to have people who are essentially competitors helping each other. But you guys just, are wonderful examples of ways that cooperation can help more people.
And I'd never experienced anything like that in my career, because when you're in broadcasting, especially on the the news side of things, where I spent my entire career, you want to get the story first. You want to beat your competition. You want to get that story on the air first. You want to, as I tell people when I relate this story, it's like you wanted to step on your competition's neck. You didn't want them to get what you were trying to get. It's 180 degrees different in an industry like the craft community. We all want to help each other, collaborate. Sure, there's competition. Yeah, we're fighting for, we've got we share a lot of the same customers. We're fighting for tap handles, just like everybody else. But at the same time, we're happy to promote one another. So, it's not unusual for somebody to be in our tap room and say, hey, where else should I go, experience things here in Oregon City? It's like, well, you can go right across the street to the Hive, which is another tap room, brewery, cidery right here in Oregon City.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, great guys running that one. And then Melissa over at the Perky Pantry. It's just a great team up there.
Yeah, some of our best friends in the industry. And so and the same sort of thing, reciprocal. It's like I'll get a text from Rick and Shelley out at Bent Shovel, which is another fantastic Oregon City brewery. It's like, hey, we just had a big group leave here, and they're coming your way. So it's really nice to be able to promote, not only to get people to come in from outside the region to experience Oregon City, but also just to grow our customer base locally. There's nothing wrong with sharing some of the same customers, because they're going to go talk to their friends, and word of mouth is an incredible thing. And so, we love sharing the customers too, because they like us all for who we are and how we all do the things, a little differently.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I want to throw out, because the support from the industry has been fun, but I also met your wife as you were getting ready to open, and we should probably throw some thanks at her, because it takes a very special spouse who allows you to take up so much space home brewing, and then says, you know what, go for that business, turn that into a thing, and it's cool to see the family aspect of that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, she's been a big cheerleader all along. She's been the shoulder to cry on a lot of times too.
Tim.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Because it's been a lot of work. I mean, people look at the owning a brewery is sexy. It's cool. And that's what a lot of the customers see, and it's true. It is sexy, it is cool, but there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes that the person at the bar drinking that pint of IPA doesn't necessarily see. So, my wife Val has been an incredible supporter throughout all of this. Has nudged me in the right direction a lot of times when I'm stuck. But it was a huge leap of faith for us to kind of look at our situation, career-wise, financial-wise, and decide to go for it. And it's a learning experience every day, but I couldn't do it without her.
Well, so how old were you when you guys made that leap?
How old was I?
Yeah.
In my 40s.
See, okay, so that helps. I think that's going to help listeners be like, you can change course, at any time in your life and see how it's going. And I love that question, because I love the question about the wife.
Well, and you've mentioned before that not only, was it a career change and everything, but as I recall, you've got a kid in college, correct?
Close. I've got a senior in high school who right now has been ready for college for about the past 12 months. So,
and I get that. I've got a freshman in high school, so just the thought, of driving in a couple of years, that cost, and then college, that is keeps me up at night. But you're in that same vein. But the cool thing is, you guys are killing it.
Well, that's really intimidating when you think of what college costs and how that goes. We have a running joke at the tap room when I'm tending bar that the tip jar is not the tip jar, it's the college fund.
Yes.
You may get more in there for that.
You could use every dollar. Again, this whole thing kind of came at a point in life where we knew that there were going to be some even bigger things coming along, like my daughter going to college. So it's been, it's been frustrating at times, because I've been so busy working on the business that I don't get to see her as much. But maybe that's sort of preparing me for
Yeah.
when
Right,
she goes
right.
away. We're not going to see her at all for months at a time.
Right.
And she's been I think patient with the whole process too. I mean, she's actually helped us out a couple of times with events. She enjoys getting up and talking to people, and all of our regular customers are totally stoked when she's around because they get to meet her. They've heard so much about her. It's always a treat having her around. She wants to study microbiology in college. She wants to be a research scientist, and I've told her we could use a good microbiologist working for the brewery, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
So I was going to say, I mean, there's a connection there with the yeast and the brewing and everything,
Yes,
but
She might change her mind. You never know.
going past, just the outer layer of it, but looking at some of the intricacies of what you do, one of my favorite things, besides the actual beers themselves, is the names.
Yeah.
I'm a lover of puns, as anybody who has worked with me for about 5 seconds knows. And you've incorporated some really fun, creative names behind your beers.
Yeah, there's a lot of branding involved in running a successful business, and so the coin toss name has a certain significance, and we can get into that if you want a little bit later. But yeah, I've just always thought that it's beer drinking is fun. It's a very social experience, and so why not have a fun lineup of beers. So we've taken liberties with my last name, all in a good way. We've joked about some other beers we could make, but probably wouldn't see the light of day. And it's always fun when new people come in, and it's like, because my last name is not spelled like it sounds. It's very German. It's spelled Hohl. And so when they see Black Hole or Pie Hole, which were two of the names of the beers on the board, they're like, what is that? And it's like, well, it's how I spell my last name. And they're like, oh, that's kind of fun. But then the whole history thing lends itself to fun names and puns. And we always want to tie back into, again, the whole coin toss history and heritage brand, and have beers that get people thinking about the community they live in. Our Nine Eyes IPA, which is our flagship IPA, is named for the Pacific Lamprey who live at Willamette Falls here in Oregon City. Nine Eyes is the I guess English translation of the Native American nickname, because the natives have harvested the lamprey for years,
Right.
and they still do once a year. So it's our way of coming up with a cute, clever, memorable name, but it also is a name that makes you think, and it's like, hey, what's the story behind the story? Because there's always got to be a good story.
Well, the most favorite story, which I know you've told a bajillion times, but we're going to tell it again for the podcast, is the name of coin toss. So let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I never get tired of telling this story. So we are named for the actual historical event which named the city of Portland.
Yes.
And people's initial reaction to that is like, well, why would you do that if you're in a place like Oregon City? Well, the actual historical event happened in Oregon City. In 1845, Oregon City, Portland didn't exist yet. Portland was just beginning to get settled. And Oregon City was the end of the Oregon Trail. It was the capital of the Oregon Territory. It was the population center in the region. Now, there were a couple of pioneers who lived in Oregon City, who were from back east, who had a land claim downriver in the land that would eventually become Portland. They were starting to cut down the trees. That's where the nickname Stumptown comes from. It was clear, it was because it was farther downriver and just better access to the future port, that this was probably going to eventually be a bigger population center than Oregon City. So the two pioneers who had the land claim for this land, it was a 50-50 split on the land claim. And each pioneer wanted to name it after his hometown because they were from back east. So some familiar names to people. Francis Pettygrove was from Portland, Maine. He was one of the pioneers. And Asa Lovejoy was from Boston, Massachusetts. Names might be familiar to folks. There was a Pettygrove Street, Pettygrove Fountain, same with Lovejoy.
Yes.
But these are very Portland names. But these guys lived and had lives and businesses and families in Oregon City. But they couldn't figure out who got to pick the name. Lovejoy wanted to name it Boston or New Boston. Pettygrove wanted to call it Portland. But because it was a 50-50 split, who gets to pick?
Right.
So story goes, 1845, one night at a historic home called the Ermitinger House, which is still standing and is open to the public 2 days a week for tours. They decided to have a coin toss. Pettygrove won, 2 out of 3, therefore got to pick the name of the new city, and therefore we all live in the greater Portland Oregon area instead of the New Boston, Oregon area.
I think that's fantastic. I wish we could solve problems like that today.
Right. Yeah.
That would be really nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Now you
love
just have to throw the coin at them.
Oh, love that story though. I love that.
So yeah, so I was a history nerd long before I was a beer geek, and so when we started coming up with this idea for the brewery and the brand, it's like this name should mean something to people who not only live here but know the history, live in the region, like a good story. And I really had no concept that it would really take off like it has in the history and heritage way that it has. So it's been really cool.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the things that ties you to the community and why it's been so successful is because people who live in Oregon City, they know that history. You know, the longtime residents, they're proud of it. Mm-hmm. So tying that in with this, well, I was going to say burgeoning, industry, but I think it's gone past that to just skyrocketing. It ties everything together, and it gives everything that true sense of community. When combined with the passion of what you're doing, it makes a really amazing product.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool history in Oregon City that maybe the stories need to be retold a little bit. I mean, you drive around town and there's all these historic homes with the historic signs on them, and I'm always wondering myself, it's like, well, what's the significance of that, and what's that? And so it's fun to be able to bring that back to life and kind of mainstream it for people, where it's like it might just be the house they drive by, or might not know of Oregon City other than the McLaughlin House and Willamette Falls and the elevator and that sort of thing. So it's fun to be able to expand our brand by telling people about things like the Ermitinger House. I had no idea that thing still existed when we first started with the writing the business plan, and lo and behold, here 3 years later, it was finally reopened to the public after some major renovations. We made a special beer for the event. It was a fantastic community day where they recreated the coin toss. They brought in families of the descendants of the Pettygroves and the Lovejoys and the Ermitingers, and so what was originally just another historic home in Oregon City all of a sudden became this great community day, and it was fantastic.
That community day almost changed history then for at least for a minute there. Tell that.
Oh yeah, they recreated the coin toss as part of the event, and Pettygrove lost this time, and the Lovejoy family won. So just for a split second, they got to rename Portland Boston, but that didn't last very long.
I would love to see the Trailblazers just for like one night change their jerseys and be like the Boston Blazers or something.
No.
So.
I said that just to mess with Molly.
Portland Trailblazers.
Well, speaking of sports teams, there's a great sports team, baseball team, the Pickles, and you've been associated with them. Mm-hmm. And I know that this is the one that keeps biting you, but I'm going to
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. But I'm going to make you tell this because I love how this came about. How your time with the Pickles created something truly unique, and that has become a true favorite product of yours.
Yes, the pickle beer. We're always looking to tie into local events like the Ermitinger House we were just talking about. We created a special beer for that event. We actually just re-released that particular beer because people kept asking for it. So again, the initial idea was for the beer to promote the event, but somehow the product, the beer itself, kind of grows beyond the actual event. So the Portland Pickles, which are a minor league baseball team which play a short season over in southeast Portland, it's made up of primarily college kids looking for just some time to play ball during the summer, and they launched, and we're like, okay, well, we approached them and said, hey, we're a local craft brewery. We'd love to be able to sell our beer at the ball games, and so we kind of got that relationship going. And then midway through their first season, they had a beer festival on a Saturday afternoon where they brought in a bunch of different beers, and you could come in and sample, like any festival, to come in and sample the beers, and then your beer festival ticket also included a ticket to go watch the game. So
it was a really big deal.
How long have you been waiting to use that?
Oh my goodness.
So we're like, okay, well, if we're going to be at this festival, it's at the Portland Pickles baseball game. It's like there should be some sort of pickle beer. So we started doing our research, which meant going to Fred Meyer and buying every different kind of pickle on the shelf and bringing it back to our tap room.
Wait, I got to know, what look did the cashier give you when you just show up with nothing but pickles?
I don't remember.
You're probably just looking down, don't make eye
I'm
contact.
sure they see some pretty strange things at a Fred Meyer checkout stand. So some guy just buying a bunch of jars of pickles didn't attract too much attention. So we took these back to the tap room and just basically started mixing it into different beers that we had on tap. Kind of curious what the flavor would be, and we had dill, we had hot and spicy, we had kosher, and then sweet and sour, bread and butter pickles, which personally were my favorite, but I was figuring that the dill would actually be the home run, pun intended.
There it is.
But the dill just made the beer taste too sour, which I know sour beer is a thing, but this is what we were going for, like, a little more mass appeal than that. And when we mixed the bread and butter pickle juice with our half-penny lager, which is our lightest beer, it just spoke to us. and Caught in a Pickle, which is the name of the beer, was born. That was almost 2 years ago. Now it's funny. I get more phone calls and more people coming into the tap room asking for the pickle beer, which is not when I launched this crazy idea, not what I expected we'd be known for. But just the other day, I got a phone call on a Sunday afternoon from somebody who lives over in North Portland, who said, "Where can I buy the pickle beer near my house?" Now, it's not in mass distribution, and we had some bottles of it at our tap room, so he drove all the way from North Portland, Oregon City to buy a case of it.
Wow.
We're designing a label so that it can go in 12-ounce cans this summer. So it's again kind of like the dark lager that we made for the Ermitinger house and the recreation of the coin toss. Caught in a Pickle has kind of grown beyond the baseball team and is now just this crazy pickle beer that this brewery in Oregon City makes, which is great. You never know when you're starting something like this what's going to resonate with people, and if it's pickle beer, here we are.
Well, I'm so glad that you're going to have the cans by the summer, because that's going to be the perfect thing to have in a can for the summer.
It is. It surprises a lot of people because they're like, pickle beer? What's that? And so we'll crack a bottle of it and we'll pour it out for them. Like, wow, that's actually pretty good. It surprises a lot of people on the positive side more than the negative side. We get a few people going, I don't really like that, which is fine. Everybody's palate's different. You don't have to like every beer we make. But it surprises more people, I think, than because they're like, pickle juice, beer, huh? What's that? And once they try it, they're like, huh. So, yeah, and it is the perfect beer on a hot summer day, as it was originally designed, with a hot dog at the ballpark.
Yes.
So yeah, it's taken on a life of its own.
Good. Good.
One of the really incredible things about all of this is how it's all grown and how it's come together, and actually. What you just said, you didn't anticipate to be making pickle beer,
right?
But it's just one of those things that comes along.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that makes the craft industry here so special, is because you have that ability to experiment and try new things, and you bring the customers along for the ride. It's not something done behind closed doors, and all of a sudden, like some companies, like, hey, we put a lime in the beer, there you go, buy it, it's on the shelves. You bring the customers along with the journey and getting their input, and that, I think, really makes for that fun experience for everybody involved, because they kind of feel like they came along with.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, our customers are incredible. I mean, we've developed this wonderful foundation of regular, loyal customers who spend a day or two a week at our tap room, and we've always been very, very generous with anybody who walks in the door. So if you happen to come into our tap room on a day we're brewing, or a day our brewer is there, odds are you're gonna be tasting something that's still in production in the back. Where he's gonna be pouring tastes off the fermenter for you. So a lot of times when you've made several different trips into the tap room and you've had several different tastes, you've been along for the ride, as you said, as this beer has been born. So it's like, here it is when it's first fermenting, here it is when it's getting a little closer to final gravity, here it is before it's getting carbonated. And so, I think our customers have come to expect that, and it creates, I think, some ownership in their experience that, hey, I was here when you guys first started making this beer, and so it's a really neat way to involve customers. 'Cause a lot of breweries will do that for folks, but sometimes it only happens once or twice a year when you have an open house or something. It's like you're not always getting these tastes, and so we try to make regular events out of it. So on the other side of the coin,
he's got more puns than I have. I just want to point that out.
It presents an interesting challenge for us in how we release new beers, because people always want something that's new. And so it's been a challenge for us over the past couple of years to plan for that and to create something new, while at the same time developing and refining this core lineup that we have, because people always it's like, what's next, and it's kind of, I think the industry as a whole kind of wrestles with that, because it's like you always have to be creating something new. And I don't know, I've mixed feelings about that, because I think we have a really good core lineup, and I just want to be able to expose people to our 6 best beers, or 6 mass appeal beers, or however you want to put it. But at the same time, it's just like, well, maybe we need to do this, or maybe we need to do that. It's a challenge for us, but the upside is we can. I mean, if we want to try to do something crazy, we can, and most of the time when we've done it, it's worked to an extent.
Pickle juice.
Because we're
the fun story.
Because we're small enough. I mean, we're not a ginormous brewery that has to make all of its decisions to, well, first of all, please its shareholders, but is on such a scale that you can't do something small and fun and exciting, and sometimes that's how great ideas are born.
Speaking of that fun stuff you guys do, because of your scale, you also let people come in the back and you show off the brewing area, which, as people who have gone and got to see it ourselves, it is so fun to get to see behind the curtain. So why don't you tell us more about that?
Yeah, no, that's a really fun thing to do, because I mean, we work there, we see it every day, and I forget sometimes how, if the door, because if you're sitting at the bar and the door's closed, you can't see into the brewery. And so a lot of times people will be sitting at the bar going, do you make these beers here? And I'm like, yes. And I, throw open the door, and here's all the stainless steel tanks in the back and everything. And, again, we take it for granted, but then I have to, you have to put yourself in the customer's shoes and realize, that, they drink it and they come in and enjoy it, but they don't always get to see what happens up close.
See the magic.
Exactly. So when when we've had big events, we're set up so that we can open up the back and people can come in, and we'll put tables and have music and lighting and such in the brewery, so that people can actually stand in the brewery and drink the beer, which I think they're like, wow, this is really cool. It's like, it's just an enhanced customer experience that you don't get everywhere, where you can actually stand where the product is made and, talk to the people who make it. So we love being able to peel back the curtain and show people what's going on. Sometimes though, it's like, well, on days we're really busy at the back, people just start walking into the brewery. It's like, okay, hold on. So you have to manage people's expectations, but it's, again, we take it for granted, but we want to kind of like exposing people to the beers as they're being fermented and coming along. It's like we want to be able to, show. It's like, look, this is where it all begins. This is where your beer is born.
There's an opportunity coming up pretty soon that actually a lot of the breweries around the area are going to be taking part in, where people can kind of, again, get that peek behind the curtain, and that's Zwicklemania. And you're participating in that as well. Correct?
We are, and I think all 5 Oregon City breweries are involved. It's coming up, let's see, the 3rd week in February, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this was a brainchild of the Oregon Brewers Guild, which is kind of the overseeing organization that helps a lot of us do what we do, to basically do just that one day a year. Peel back the curtain, let the public come in, see where the beer is made, sample the beer off the tank, get a brewery tour. Maybe there'll be a special beer release that day. So that was, I think, how long has Zwicklemania been going on? A while. I mean, this is probably the 9th or 10th year, I think.
Oh, wow.
And it's gotten to be such a huge event that it's now split into 2 different weekends. So the Portland metro area is one weekend, and then the Bend area in Central Oregon and the rest of the state, if you want to divide it up like that, has its own weekend. So it's been great for us, because it was, Zwicklemania in 2016 was the first day that we were actually officially open to the public. And so people took note of that, and there were people lined up at the door at 10 in the morning.
That's going to give you that good feeling. You're like, hey, I might have got a good idea here.
Or it's like, oh crap, what are we going to do? So it's always fun to to invite people in, especially people from out of the area. We found that Oregon City, kind of, as we were talking about earlier, is just outside the metro area, that over the years we've been doing this, we're seeing a lot of people come out and spend the day, and so they can hit all the local breweries, which is great. This is, we want this to be happening more than once a year. But
there's a way to help them meet all those breweries, and I'm doing the self-promotion here, is with the Mount Hood Territory Tap Trail. It's a free mobile passport, and you're on there.
We are. Yep.
People can download it to their phone, and they tour the different breweries, and again, for free, and then by redeeming at these places, they get discounts. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what discount you offer for the Tap Trail?
We do. It's 50% off a flight. So
there you go. It's a good deal.
Yeah, our flights have 6 beers on them, so you get 6 4-ounce pours of any of the beers on the board. We usually have anywhere from 11 to 12 beers on at the same time, so you get a pretty good cross reference there. And we see a lot of people who have come out and make 2 or 3 stops in a day, which is probably all you want to do unless you have a new designated driver.
Always have a designated driver.
Uber, Lyft, they are your friends.
Or those, yes.
So yeah, but just the whole Dwicklemania concept is great because it gives people that that experience that all of us in the industry kind of take for granted, and getting to climb up on the brew deck and look in the kettle and sample something right off, and what's this, what's that, don't touch that.
Don't touch it, you'll break it.
Yeah. So it's a great day, and like I say, it'll always be a special day to us because it was sort of our unofficial first day ever having our tap room open to the public. So
obviously the goal is to get somebody into the tap room. But that said, people can experience your beers in other locations as well. So where can they find you?
Absolutely. Our whole market strategy is kind of just built around super serving the local community. So if you look at where we are in Oregon City, on top of the hill off 213 in Beaver Creek, look at that on a map, and then just kind of look at the radius as it kind of extending out from that, from where the physical brewery is. It's like we want to super serve the local community. We want, more often than not, for you to be able to walk into a restaurant or a bar or a grocery store or a convenience store just in Oregon City, or the outlying communities, West Linn, Lake Oswego, Canby, Milwaukee, and see our tap handle, see our cans. So I have no grand vision of conquering the world and signing a big massive distribution agreement. We just want to super serve the local community. We've got some customers in Portland who really support us, and that's wonderful, but it's like we're not in this business to fight for tap handles in Portland. We just want to super saturate the local market. So odds are when you go into a restaurant or a bar on Main Street in downtown Oregon City, in the Willamette area over in West Linn, you will see our tap handle, and we are grateful for everyone who does buy our beer and put us on tap because it's an incredibly competitive market out there. There's rep after rep of coming in every day and bugging these people who buy beer saying, hey, I've got the greatest new thing, please support us, and that's where the competition is super intense. So we like finding partners, we like finding people who, I'm not out just to sell beer everywhere. I want to find the restaurants and the bars and such that want to promote us. And so if somebody has a Nine Eyes IPA at the Willamette Ale and Cider House in West Linn, we love it when the bartender would say, hey, you should go check these guys out. They're in Oregon City. There's this great craft beer community in Oregon City. At the same time, it's like if I have somebody, some customers from West Linn who come into our tap room, it's like, hey, you can find our beer here. We'd love it when you come into the tap room, but we know you can't all the time, and we're not a restaurant, so if you're looking to eat out, go have dinner at the Winehard Grill and have a Winehard IPA, which is a beer that we make. So it's to me, it's a real, it has to be a real partnership between us and the folks that are supporting us.
Well, on that statement, super serve the locals. That should be our headline or something. That's so good. I love that.
Well, you guys have been doing a good job, and you've, like I said, professional broadcaster, you know how to do this, but we're going to throw you for a little bit of a loop. We didn't tell Tim that this was happening. This is something fun that we're going to be doing on each podcast. But we're going to play a game of Would You Rather.
Okay.
Molly has curated 5 Would You Rather questions. We're going to throw them at you. Just go off the top of your head, and then we'll make fun of your choices. No, possibly, depending on what you say.
All right.
But we'll just have fun with it and just kind of lighten the mood a little bit.
Bring it on.
Okay, here we go, Tim. So, would you rather be without internet for a week
No.
or without your phone for a week?
Ooh, wow.
So tough these days.
Man, I've been wrestling with this one a lot lately. Because
There are some days you're like, please take the phone.
yeah, but social media is a integral part of our marketing plan. So it's like it's hard for me to put the phone down sometimes. But I would love to so much. So I could, if I still had internet access in some way, shape, or form, I would love to see what would transpire over a couple of days, or would you say a week?
A week.
I'd love to see if I could handle it, because as long as there's still internet access somewhere, I could I put the phone down? I don't know. But then what if I get a call if somebody wants to order a keg? What do I do then? So
Just take an iPad.
They have to call your main line of your
There you go.
brewery.
I would. Yeah, sometimes I'm so tied to my phone, and you get those updates saying your screen time was up by 35 minutes last week. And I'm like, so yeah, I think I could make it without the phone, just because I'm so curious to see how I could still do business, and I'd probably still be alive at the end of the 7 days.
Okay, awesome. Well, speaking of how to manage your time, would you rather read an awesome book or watch a really good movie?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I hardly have time to do either.
Right.
But one of the things that I really enjoy when I have the time and I can make the time for it, and it's usually when I'm on vacation, which hasn't happened a lot lately. I love to read. But I just never seem to have the time for it. It's like, oh, I'm too tired. I should be doing something else. I should be on my phone tweeting about the next special at the brewery. So as much as I love going to movies, and don't do a lot of that lately, if it was the choice between a good book and a good movie, I'd have to pick the good book.
Okay. Well, so speaking of vacationing, if you were to do that, do you think you would rather go deep sea diving or bungee jumping?
Oh man.
You kind of already you already kind of did the plunge when you started the business.
Well, yeah, good one. I don't know. I mean, I can appreciate the adrenaline rush of the bungee jump, because as somebody who used to hate roller coasters, I think when I turned 50 and we went to Disneyland for my 50th birthday, it was like suddenly the roller coasters were fun again, and it was like, and it had never been that way. So I appreciate the adrenaline rush that comes with that, but the deep sea diving thing is really intriguing because you can get in. I mean, this is a place that you never get to see unless you really, really make an effort. I'm claustrophobic, so I'd be a little concerned about that.
Same. Same.
Even when I've gone like snorkeling, it's just like trying to get the mask and the snorkel thing to fit. It's like I know the next breath I'm going to take, I'm going to inhale half the Pacific Ocean. Once you get over that fear, it's like, wow, it's really cool under here. So I'd have to go with deep sea diving.
Yes, you can overcome it. I've overcome the snorkel mask scenario. I've been there, but you can overcome it, and it's totally worth it.
Yeah, it's all good until something touches your toes, and then you're like freaking out. Oh, yucky toes!
Well, again, speaking of animals, so would you rather be able to talk with the animals or speak all foreign languages?
That would be an interesting one.
Talk to the animal.
Well, at the same time, I know what my dog is saying. He's just saying, feed me, feed me, feed me.
Yeah. How interesting can the conversation with your cat really be?
Right. Right.
It's just like a teenager. They both, they need you, but they don't want to admit it.
Yeah. I don't know. I love to travel, and it's something I did a lot of earlier in my life, and I haven't done as much of lately. And so I think, being able to know all the languages would be very cool. Although sometimes when you're a tourist, if you don't know the language, you can still have a lot of fun. So I that would take me, I think, more interesting places than, being able to talk to the animals. Although, Dr. Doolittle was onto something, so
work for Snow White.
Yeah. So I'll take the languages. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think I have saved the hardest for last. So here we are. Would you rather have a rewind button on your life or a pause button on your life?
Oh man. Rewind. That would probably be I don't know. Is that the easy one? I don't know. I mean, I'm 52, and of all the crazy things that have, you always have regrets and things that have happened, or really cool things you want to go back and experience. But at this stage of my life, as busy as my life is with trying to manage the company and the family and a kid that's going to college, it's like, can I just hit the pause button for like a month so I can catch up with everything? I think that would be great. I really actually wake up some mornings going, oh man, could I just have a day where I don't have to do everything in my routine, where I can just catch up? So pause button it is.
Okay.
So hit the pause button, take a nap. That sounds good to me.
That's a good one, Tim. I'm with you.
Tim, I want to thank you for being out here on our very first podcast. It's a great story that you have with the brewery, and again, the passion that you have for it and your connection with the community, I think makes it truly special. So it's a great story to share with our listeners.
Well, thank you so much.
And thank you to the listener for listening to our first podcast. You guys are awesome. Join us for our second one.
Yes.
Because we're going to be talking the fascinating story behind Timberline Lodge with the operator and the family who helped restore, rescue, save that historic lodge, Jeff John Stanley. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Territory Tales.